Hello and welcome back to the Cricket Draft YouTube channel. The County Championship is just around the corner. My name is Dan Jadzevics. I'm joined by our analyst Dan Weston, and we are talking all things county cricket because the app's live, the game's live. We've been building teams, we've got new features to talk about, and there's a lot to go through. But Dan, how are you, sir? And a little birdie tells me you've got your team built ready for the 2025 opening week.
Hey Dan, yeah, great to be back here again after an amazing big bash. And yes, the team is ready for game week 1. Really excited about it, and yeah, put some thought into this ahead of the first few rounds of the season.
I'm pleased to hear it. I'm pleased to hear that time and effort has gone into building this team. But before we
Absolutely.
go into your team, let's talk a little bit about the Cricket Draft game itself. As I said, it is live, it's available on iOS, it's available on Android, and you can start building your team up for this weekend's round of fixtures. It starts on Friday. You can create leagues, you can take on your mates, you can teammates in your cricket clubs, whatever you like to do, you can do that. You can join leagues as well. There are some new features, which I'll go through in just a second, but I will just confirm that the rules are pretty much identical to last year. You've got that budget of 100 million. You have to have 15 players. The team is split the same way, 3 players per county. You have to pick a captain and all that good stuff. The new features, though, you are actually able to have a look at last season's stats. So if you're looking at players and you want to have a little bit more of an in-depth look as to what they've maybe done in recent history, then you can do so. You can also have a look at your own personal career stats. So that's kind of how many points you've accumulated in cricket draft history. I think I'm on about 76,000 or something, which, as we learned, probably kind of tells you how long I've played it for rather than how good I am at it. And the fact that Darren Stevens is still one of my most picked players. You can have a look at your team in a list if you don't want to have a look at it as the team sheet style. And also, the Cricket Draft will be posting predicted 11s ahead of each round of the County Championship across their social media pages: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Medium. So make sure you are following us on all of those platforms. I'm going to take a breather, Dan, but let's have a run through your batters. I can see the names; they look absolutely stunning. Give us a little bit of reason as to why you've picked these guys.
Right. Okay. So I think before I go on just the batters alone, I want to talk about the overriding themes of my squad because I think the batters align to it, and I'm basically I'm looking for players who have really consistent availability, really consistent match contributions, and in an ideal world, players who have dropped down divisions from Division 1 to Division 2. So I've managed to get actually 7 players in my squad who've dropped from Division 1 to Division 2, and 2 of them are batters. So we have Tawanda Miei at 5.9 and Keaton Jennings as well, just a shade under 8 million, who I think will be run machines in Division 2 across the season. And then in terms of the consistent availability, David Beddingham at 8.3 is just a run machine in Division 1 as well. So I fully expect that to be a solid start to the season in terms of my batters.
Yeah, I really appreciate the logic behind that as well, with Tawanda and with Keaton dropping down those divisions, and as you said, being available throughout the course of the season. I suppose Keaton unlikely to get that England call up.
Mm.
Tawanda probably not as well. But what England's losses is Kent and Lancashire's gain, and David Beddingham as well. I mean, he always seems to be churning runs out, and the rate at which he gets them at as well, the strike rates that go in behind those numbers. You could go and get 2 incredibly quick 100 from David Beddingham in the same game.
Mm. And also, Twander is also a very attacking player as well. So you could potentially get some extra boosts from him as well in that sense too.
Hmm.
And I don't think Jennings will be any mug. He's definitely increased his T20 output in terms of strike rate and boundary hitting as well. So against that maybe slightly lower caliber of opposition bowlers, I'd expect him to do well too.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. All rounders. If there's one thing we learned through the Big Bash, we learned about the importance of all rounders. You can have a bit of flexibility, though. You can pick batters, you can pick bowlers instead of the all rounder. What have you done with your 4, and who are they, and why have you picked them?
Well, I definitely learned that, Dan, in terms of the value of the all-rounders for when we did the Big Bash. And anyone who followed my squads through the Big Bash will know that I always go with 4 all-rounders. I don't go batters, I don't go bowlers in these slots. It is just all-rounders because I want to try and maximise match involvement as much as possible. So in all cases, really, they're either genuine all-rounders or batters who bowl a decent amount, or a bowler who bats a decent amount. So in terms of price order, I've gone with Craig Overton to start with, who I think will be a real threat as usual for Somerset in red ball cricket. Ed Barnard at 7.7 for Warwickshire, and that's a kind of a tactical pick as well because I know they've got a couple of injuries as well in terms of the pace bowling, and so and also batting. So I'd expect him to go bat a little bit higher than maybe some would anticipate, and I definitely can see him being like definitely a first change bowler as well. So that's a sort of nuanced pick in terms of that first game week or first couple of game weeks. Um, Joey Everson, who's just hit 200 for Kenton against Loughborough University today in the warm up game, obviously some of it yesterday, but a player I know well, and I think at this, say dropping down to Division Two, I could see him batting top six and accumulating. It wouldn't shock me if he scored 1,000 runs in a season, and maybe contributed with maybe 25 wickets as well. So which would be great for point scoring. And Tom Scriven, who is another player I know well at Leicester, who again bats a sort of 7 or 8, but will be first change or even opening bowler for Leicester. So and gets some really handy runs down the order and is a consistent wicket taker. He's always around that sort of 3-4 wickets a game mark as well, which is really useful in terms of that consistent point scoring for him. And at 5.9, absolute bargain for Scriv.
Yeah, I was about to say Ed Barnard feels like a bargain at 7.7 million.
Mm.
But Tom Scriven, as you said, with his involvement to come in at less than 6 million feels like well, it feels a bit like robbery, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like, I expect him to have probably as much match involvement as any Leicestershire player throughout the season.
Yeah, well, a good bunch of all rounders. I noticed you've gone seam bowlers all the way through as well. You weren't
Yeah.
tempted by a Liam Dawson in there.
No, I was, but he's 9 million as well, so I'd have to make some real changes elsewhere. And I feel like for me, I wanted that. If I was going to pick a spin bowler, I wanted that certainty, and I would have had to make so many cuts in other areas. I just didn't feel that it was worth it. And I thought, yeah, seeing bowlers in April, safety first, isn't it?
Absolutely right. How about someone that's going to be taking those gloves and taking those schnicks from those seam bowlers? Who have you picked for the wicket keeper?
One of the biggest young talents in the country, James Rue. Yeah, he's not. I don't think he's that far off playing for England. Incredible record so far for Somerset, and is only going to get better and better. So for me, 7 million when you can compare him to some of the other options who might not even take the gloves, I think that's a really good option for my team with the price point at 7 million, fitted in perfectly with what I was looking for to achieve in that wicket-keeper role.
Yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? With the match involvement, the fact that James Root is going to keep wicket. Others like a Johnny Bairstow, a Peter Hanscom, they fall in that wicket keeper bracket, but actually
Yeah.
the likelihood of them taking the gloves and then therefore picking those points up for you as a wicket keeper, I think you then need to weigh that up, don't you, as to whether it's worth the price or not.
Definitely, and you could probably throw someone like Jamie Smith into that as well, who you may or may not keep with Ben Folkes in the Surrey squad too. For sure, Bairstow might not keep, and Tattersall might keep for Yorkshire, for example. There's a couple of keepers at Leicester, obviously, you say with Hanscom. You've also got Ben Cox, you've also got Lewis Hill. So they're not guaranteed to keep. Whereas I think Rue is very likely to keep for Somerset, and I want to try and keep that extra points avenue open as much as I can, really.
Yeah. How about your bowlers then? Is there a spinner sneaking into this 11, or have you gone seam the whole way through?
Seam the whole way through, Dan. Yeah, so I've got 7 seam bowlers in my team, 4 of which are all rounders, but the other 3 are more from the tail end of variety. Sam Cook 8.4. I think he's probably as much of a banker as you could get in this game. And I'm sure he's going to be featuring in a lot of people's teams over the first few game weeks for sure. Then I went for Dane Patterson, who was at Notts and did really well as an overseas player for Notts, but has now moved to Middlesex and playing Division Two cricket again. So it's that recurring theme of looking for players who have dropped divisions but did really well in the first division as when they played in the first division. And he's certainly done that. And I think it's 7.9 million when you can compare him to some of the other prices around. It is a really good bargain price actually for Dane Patterson. And then as the same goes for Will Williams as well at 7.4, who's my last pick. Again, dropping from Division 1 to Division 2 when he'd done really, really well in Division 1. And now we know that James Anderson's out for probably the first month of the season. There's more wickets to go round for these Lancashire seamers. So the likes of Will Williams and Tom Bailey are gonna now probably become more prolific point scorers as well. And Williams was slightly cheaper than Tom Bailey, fitted in really nicely with my price point that I was looking for to achieve for that role. So he got the nod as my final seamer.
It's a fantastic 11. How about substitutes then? What budget have you got? What budget did you have left for those subs to play with then? Did you have to make some big compromises there, or were you able to kind of pick 15 players that you think will play each week?
Yeah, I've got a good opportunity to do that. I think so. I only had 19 million left for the four bench players. So average of I don't know what's that about just about 4.75 million per player. So I went cheap with a couple. I went with Kai Smith at 4.3 as a keeper batter for Warwickshire because I think that there's a decent chance that he might play now. Michael Burgess has retired and Chris Benjamin's gone to Kent, so they're definitely lacking depth in that role. And I know they think a lot of him, and he scored a lot of runs in the second 11. So it makes sense to have him as a cheap option. I also went with Jaden Denley at 4.7 million. So if we're talking about a spin bowler, maybe that's one, because even though he goes in as he counts as a batter in the game, but he does bowl some really quite handy left arm orthodox spin as well. And again, just got same with Joey Everson, got 100 in the warm up game against Loughborough University yesterday. So I think that he might get more game time than he has previously, and he only got 50 in a game last year as well. So Jaden Denley is another one at 4.7, and then I've got Derbyshire and now Birmingham Phoenix's Harry Moore at 4.9 million. Again, he goes in as an all rounder, but I think probably a bowling all rounder at this point in his career, but someone who's got incredible potential and I think could definitely get really really decent amount of game time for Derby this year. And then finally, a player who I do expect to start and I think is a really good price is Ben Geddes at 5.1 million. Now he'd done really really well for Surrey when he'd played for them. It was a run machine in second 11 as well, and in Division 1 he'd done absolutely fine. It's just that they've got such an array of riches at the Oval that he struggled for game time, and now he's gone to Middlesex. So I would expect him to be a starter at Middlesex and to do pretty well. Certainly, he would have gone to Middlesex with a view to playing a lot more. And at 5.1 million, if you can get a starter, or someone who's done well in Division 1 and now isn't playing in Division 2 as well, at 5.1 million, I think he could be a bargain for a lot of people and maybe a decent differentiator between my squad and a lot of others as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that sounds like a fantastic 15, Dan. We'll let you know, the viewers, and I'll let you know, Dan, what my 15 are going to be. We're going to do that tomorrow. But if you've watched
Right.
this and you've enjoyed it, consider subscribing to the YouTube channel if you're not already. Drop us a like on the video. Maybe comment as well. Comment the team that you're going to start with this weekend, or comment whether you think Dan's picked a decent team here. Let us know what your thoughts are. But Dan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for watching. Get the app downloaded, build your squads. The county championship starts on Friday.